Summary of Canto 3, Chapter 28, Lord Kapila's instructions on the execution of devotional service. Lord Kapila said, "My dear mother, I will now describe the yoga system, Bhakti Mishra Ashtanga Yoga, the object of which is to concentrate the mind. By following this, the mind attains the joyful spiritual path. There are some yamas and niyamas to be followed. One should execute prescribed duties to the best of one's ability. They should avoid performing duties that is not allowed. They should be satisfied with what is achieved by the Lord's grace. They should worship the lotus feet of the spiritual master. There should be cessation of conventional religious practices. Be attracted to those who lead the be attracted to the principles that lead to salvation. One must practice eating very frugally. One must always remain in a secluded place. Practice ahimsa, non-violence, satyam, truthfulness, asteyam, refraining from theft. One should possess only whatever is necessary. One should practice strict celibacy, brahmacharyam, tapa, austerity, saucham, cleanliness, Swadhyaya, study of the Vedas, and Purusha Archanam, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and also practice Maunam or silence. The asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi are next discussed. Asana. Attaining steadiness by mastering correct asanas is the next step. One must follow pranayama, which is controlling the breathing of the vital air. Pratyahara, which is withdrawing the senses from the material objects and concentrating the mind and the heart, and then dharana, which is fixing the prana at one spot among the various chakras by the mind, dhyana, which is meditating on the limbs of the Lord and the Vaikuntha Leelas, then samadhi, the state of the minds being virtually absorbed in the Lord. So by these or any other such processes, one must control the contaminated, unbridled mind and fix it on the Lord. The requirements of asana are such that one should practice breath control by controlling the mind and sitting postures, establishing a seat in a clean place, sitting in swastikasana, and keeping the body straight. Mind control is established through pranayama. One should purify the passage of the prana by the practice of inhaling, which is called as puraka, and holding, which is called as kumbhaka, and exhaling, which is called as rechaka, or reversing the process so that the mind becomes steady. Very soon, the mind of such a yogi becomes pure, just as gold becomes pure when put into fire and fanned with air. The effects of practicing pranayama is that it destroys the doshas in the body. Dharana destroys the sense, pratyahara frees one from material association with the sense objects, and dhyana finally frees one from the different modes of uncontrollable qualities. When the mind becomes steady by the practice of this yoga, looking at the tip of the nose, one should meditate on the form of the Lord. This meditation on the Lord's form is actually the third anga of the nine-limbed bhakti process, Smaranam, and it is the seventh anga in the Ashtanga Yoga process. In yoga, this is for attaining liberation. So taking this opportunity, Kapila now begins to describe the Lord's form, which is used by both devotees and the yogis for meditation. So a general description of the Lord's form is given for performing dharana. The Lord's form is cheerful and he has a lotus-like countenance. He has ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus, a swarthy body like petals of a blue lotus. He bears a conch with discus, mace, and lotus in his hands. His loins are covered by a shining cloth which is yellowish like lotus filaments. He has a Srivatsa mark, a curl of a white hair on his breast, a Kaustuba gem suspended from his neck, garland of forest flowers humming with intoxicated bees, priceless pearl necklace, bracelets, crown, armlets, anklets, loins, and hips encircled by a girdle. He stands on the lotus of the devotee's heart. He appears most charming to look at, and he is very, very serene. He gladdens the eyes, mind, and heart of the devotees. He is eternally very beautiful. He is worshipable by all the inhabitants of all the planetary systems. He is situated in youth and boyhood. He is eager to bestow blessings upon his devotee. It is very much worth singing all his glories. His glories enhance the glories of the devotees, and one should meditate upon all the limbs until the mind becomes fixed. With a heart filled with pure emotions, the yogi visualizes the Lord standing, moving, sitting, or lying down and meditates on his beautiful pastimes in the spiritual world. This is dhyana. Having meditated on the Lord with all his limbs, one should fix his mind on each individual limb of the Lord now. The lotus feet. The lotus feet of the Lord is marked with a thunderbolt, gourd, banner, and lotus. It is splendorous with ruby-like nails that resembles the orbit of moon. Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters that have washed these lotus feet, which is the Ganges. He dispels the thick gloom in one's heart when one can see his lotus feet. His lotus feet act like thunderbolts on the mountain of sins that is there in the mind. Below his knees and calves, one should fix in the heart the activities of Lakshmi, who is always found massaging the Lord's legs and thighs. The thighs is whitish blue like the luster of a linseed flower, Atasika Kusuma, and it appears most graceful when the Lord is on Garuda's shoulders. It is a storehouse of all energy. His hips are rounded, encircled by a girdle that rests on an exquisite yellow silk cloth that extends down to his anklets. His navel is moon-like in the center of his abdomen. It is the foundation of the entire universe from which the lotus stem originates, containing all the different planetary systems. His nipples, they resemble a pair of most exquisite emeralds. They appear whitish because of the rays of the milk-white pearl necklaces adorning his chest. His chest is the very abode of goddess Mahalakshmi. It is the source of pleasure for the mind and full satisfaction for the eyes. His neck enhances the beauty of Kaustubha gem on his chest. His arms, they are the source of all powers of demigods, controllers of nature's functions. The Sudarshan Chakra with 100 spokes, with dazzling luster is present there. His conch looks like a swan in his lotus-like palm. The Kaumodaki club is very dear to him. It smashes the inimical demons and is smeared with their blood. The mala that he wears is always surrounded by bumblebees with their nice buzzing sound. The mani, the pearl necklace, represents the pure living entities who are always engaged in his service. His lotus face, lotus-like countenance, the Lord presents his different forms in the world out of compassion for his anxious devotees. His nose is prominent. His nose is prominent. He has crystal clear cheeks that are illumined by the oscillation of his glittering alligator-shaped earrings. He is adorned with curly hair and decorated by lotus-like eyes and dancing eyebrows. A lotus surrounded by swarming bees and a pair of swimming fish would be put to shame by its elegance. His eyes soothe the most fearful threefold agonies of his devotees. His glance is accompanied by loving smiles and are full of abundant grace. His smile drives away the ocean of tears caused by intense grief. His eyebrows manifested by his internal potency in order to charm Cupid for the good of sages. His laughter is so captivating that it can be easily meditated upon. Small teeth resemble jasmine buds are rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. Once devoting his mind to this, the yogi should no longer desire to see anything else. By this meditation, one gradually develops love for God, exhibiting symptoms like hair standing on its end and tears rolling. Gradually, he withdraws his hook-like mind from all materialistic activity. However, an unfortunate yogi, in spite of developing love for God, also sometimes withdraws his mind from his beautiful form because he is not fixed in that taste. Such a yogi is actually cheated of bhakti rasa. The Lord gives such a yogi the realization of individual soul, but not liberation with realization of Paramatma. That is very unfortunate. Now Kapila continues to respond to Devahuti's question about how the soul is bound and then freed. The mind, which is thus detached from material contamination, is like a flame of a lamp and is actually dovetailed with that of the Supreme Lord as it is free from the flow of material qualities. Then the detached mind becomes situated in its own glory, transcendental to all happiness and distress. The yogi realizes the truth of his relationship with the Lord and discovers that pleasure and pain are only because of his false ego. Because he achieved his real identity, he acts as if totally unaware of his body like a drunken person. The body of such a liberated yogi is taken charge of by the Lord, and its functions continue until its destined activities are finished. He does not accept the byproducts of the material body as his own, and it appears like a body within a dream. Just as a person is different from his son and wealth, though he identifies with them, the jiva is different from the body. A liberated soul can actually understand this. Just as fire is different from wood, sparks, and smoke, etc., Bhagavan is also different from the jiva combined with the senses, the five elements, and consciousness. Such a yogi should see the super soul in all beings and all beings in the super soul. Just as fire appears different in different forms of wood under different conditions of modes, the pure spirit soul manifests itself in different bodies. After conquering insurmountable Maya, the yogi can be in a self-realized position. Hare Krishna. This completes the summary of Canto 3, Chapter 28. Execution of devotional service. Hare Krishna.